And good afternoon, everyone. It is time for the Scar Survivor Hour, and we are thrilled because we have Debbie Ray Rivers in studio with the good doctor today, and lots to talk about. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much, Shelley. Welcome, everyone, to our Scar Survivor Hour radio show. I'm Debbie Ray Rivers. For those who are never tuned into our show, I'm the executive director of SCARS. SCAR stands for Saving Children and Revealing Secrets, and we are a charity whose mission is to reduce the risk of child sexual abuse in our Bermuda community. I am also a survivor of child sexual abuse, and I'm a mom of 2 survivors. I am on set sitting here with our co-host, the wonderful Dr. Alicia Hancock. Dr. Hancock is a SCARS board member, a valued board member, a friend. I call her a friend, and a clinical psychologist with years and decades of experience in child sexual abuse. Hi, Dr. Hancock.
Hi.
So, everyone, SCARS Hour is another platform for us, our charity, to spread awareness and to be an advocate and a voice for those who have been sexually molested, as well as their affected families. On behalf of all of us at SCARS, I want to extend our heartfelt thanks to the Conduit Foundation for the generous sponsorship of this show. We couldn't do it without them. Their belief in our mission and commitment to our cause is making a difference, and we are truly grateful to the Conduit Foundation. Our Survivor Hour show is a platform to spread awareness and to give our survivors of child sexual abuse not only an opportunity to be heard for those that choose to, but also to provide hope that healing is possible from child sexual abuse, from the trauma of sexual abuse. But we know that it takes time, it takes loads of support from the loved ones in our life, and it does take work on our own part. Today on Survivor Hour, with the help of Dr. Hancock, we're going to discuss putting children back together after sexual trauma. When a child is sexually molested, it's like glass, right, that breaks without any warning. Their little world has been split into pieces, and their trust has been fractured, and their identity has been cracked. But being shattered should never be the end of their story. We put them back together, and when we do that, healing begins. So this show is for every adult survivor out there who was affected by the broken pieces, the shattered pieces of trauma, for those that had to hide it, or who believed that being shattered meant that they would never be whole again. But let me tell you, you can and you will. Now, before we get into helping our parents of children who have been traumatized from sexual abuse and all the adults out there, and also us survivors, I want to remind everyone about our broadcasting rules. So this show contains sensitive information, and it is intended for adults only. If this topic of child sexual abuse is difficult for you and may cause you to be triggered or re-traumatized, we highly recommend right now change the dial on your radio station because we want you to take care of yourself. And you, as an adult, have the power to make that decision. So your well-being should always be a priority. You're welcome to call in. The number here at Ocean 89, at Power 95 is, go ahead, Shelley.
Yeah, we have to remember which studio we're in sometimes, Debbie. We go back and forth. It happens. 292-9595.
Thank you, Shelley. But, you're welcome to call in. This is a sensitive topic, so when calling into our show, please, we ask callers, if you're going to share your story, not to mention your name or perpetrator's name, like we have no way of vetting that in advance. So thank you for that. Please be mindful also that this show is not meant for personal attack. It's meant to educate and empower and advocate for the children of Bermuda and for our survivors, our adult survivors. If you do have a childhood story of sexual abuse, we would love to hear from you. So please feel free to send me an email in advance, Debbie, DEBI, at scars.bm, and I will reach out to you. You can also call me on my cell number, 537-7949. Also, please remember that we're not legal experts. We can answer questions about surviving sexual abuse and how trauma affects victims of sexual abuse. But we aren't able to answer any questions as it relates to the law. And please, as you know, on that vein, please, absolutely no attack on any lawyer, judge, or magistrate. Okay, so Dr. Hancock, let's get right into this. I mean, we know that it's our responsibility as parents, as adults in children's lives to that we should put children back together after trauma. That's really our responsibility, and it's not easy. You know, we know that as parents and guardians and loved ones in a child's life, when they fall, we catch them. When they're sad, we hold them. When they cry, we wipe their tears. And when they are broken, we put them together. And, you know, as we think about a piece of glass that's been shattered as a result of sexual abuse, let's say, some of the pieces of that glass may look like fear, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to have to go back over there. I don't want to go do that activity anymore. You know, and to put them back together in terms of that, and I can only think of my own personal experience. I'll lay down with you until you fall asleep, right? Yeah. A little one who might be scared at night. Absolutely. After they've been harmed. We're gonna change the locks on the door so that you'll feel safe, right?
Yeah. I mean, essentially, the sympathetic nervous system gets activated when anybody is traumatized, and particularly a child, and that part of them becomes fearful and afraid. They're looking over their shoulder. They become afraid of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're going to be afraid if they have to be around that person again. Yeah. If you know, safety has to always come first, and putting that part of the glass back together takes work on the part of parents and guardians, right? Mm-hmm. To think through the lens of a child.
Yeah. Well, and everything feels dangerous, right? Everything, their threshold for feeling safe is very, becomes very sensitive, and so the ability for children to feel free and able to do anything without thinking just becomes, they become trapped and paralyzed.
Yeah, because when you think about a little child, they're almost fearless. A child that has
Absolutely.
not been affected by any sort of trauma, they don't have worries, and they shouldn't have worries. Mm-hmm. They're children.
Yeah.
So you think about a child who's been sexually molested, that piece of the glass, fear, is very real because they know something's not right. Mm-hmm. Somebody has hurt them. There's this little, innate, sensitive thing, part of their spirit that says, wait a minute, I don't like this.
Yeah, but they're powerless, right? And so the idea that an adult person who, as a child, believes that all adults are around to protect them, they have the belief that every adult that they come into contact with will protect them. And when that gets shattered by one person, their whole world is shattered. They don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
And so that's why the parental response and reaction and intervention is key to helping just to even find the pieces again.
Yeah. And that's why it's important for the parents and guardians in responding is just remove the child from that person, right? Mm-hmm. Right away.
Absolutely.
That danger. And do everything you can to make that happen.
Yeah. And unfortunately what ends up happening is, the parent many times is in shock of the information and their own, whatever issues they might have in response to their own accountability can decide what kind of response they have.
Yes.
And so if the response is anyway near an interrogation of the child, interrogating them, questioning if it happened, who did it, when did it happen, the child's going to start feeling immediately that they're not believed.
Right. Are you sure?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that this person would do that to you. That type of stuff.
That person wouldn't do that to you.
Yeah, that person wouldn't do that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. because perpetrators hide behind who they really
Yeah.
are. They're
And many times then the parent then might ask very specific information about, well, tell me what he did, tell me what she did, and the child, like you're putting the child in an immediate position to, go back to that space, to go back to that those times when their body was violated. And that's, that's just that's not a good space for the child to be in.
No.
They may not be able to.
yeah.
They've been
Yeah.
trying to forget, I'm
Yes.
sure, up until that point. So.
Yeah, so they don't want to be reminded, and they don't want to relive that, and that's why it's so important that when they are, when the details are required, that the professionals, like Department of Child and Family Services or the forensic psychologists, are able to get that information right from
Yeah.
the child in a very caring, nurturing, safe, child-friendly way.
Correct. Yeah. And, the tone of voice, the body language, the kinds of questions are the most crucial thing in the beginning, because you, at that point, that is the pivotal point of whether a child will reveal everything or they will shut down. And if they shut down, you may not get it back.
Right. No, that's true. And safety has to come first. Safety for the child has to come first, right?
Yeah.
We have to make sure that child is safe.
Yeah.
So that piece of the glass can start to be molded back into where it was shattered, right?
Yeah. So if you think of the glass, let's say it's the glass bowl, and it drops onto a concrete floor. It's shattered in pieces, and very rarely do you find all of the pieces again. Very rarely do you find even the pieces that the pieces of pieces exactly as they were. It's impossible. And so, and in the case of sexual abuse, let's just say, for instance, it's a piece of the glass bowl, and it's dropped on the same color, the very same color of the glass. So it's even harder to find the pieces. Kind of again, having a puzzle where the puzzle gets shattered. The puzzle before the trauma, there's a wholeness and innocence to children, right? Every child begins with a sense of completeness, a sense of curiosity, safety. They want to explore. They're happy, right? The majority of the time, they're just happy.
Yes.
And, so think of in a child, the early experiences of a child form all the edges of this puzzle or this glass, right? They form all of the edges. And the edges include boundaries, values, and the sense of self-concept, the identity. And now something comes in and just, they drop the glass or they just destroy the puzzle. The puzzle pieces go everywhere. They're fragmented.
Yeah. And when I think of a piece of glass, one of the fragments is fear, as we just discussed. One of the fragments, as you just identified, is identity. This shame, this all of a sudden recognizing, the body, right? And you feel like my body is not going to be the same. The self-hatred, the body dysmorphia, the feeling different, but our job as parents and guardians and those who are in charge of the child who's been traumatized is to let them know that this doesn't identify you, right? What happened to you does not identify you. You are not ruined. You can be put together and you're going to be just as beautiful as ever, right?
Yeah, and a child's understanding of their body is based on basic function. There's no sexual pieces to their understanding of what their body's for, unless they've been sexually abused and now they have no idea.
Yeah.
They have no idea. They have no idea that that was supposed to be part of a function.
Yeah. And let alone what a perpetrator says to the child about their body and things that they're just too young to hear and to understand.
Yeah.
Because the perpetrator is being aroused by that little body.
Yep.
And that is totally confusing for a little child, right?
And the tone of voice is typically initially going to be in a grooming, as a grooming approach.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind. It's going to be calm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. At times kids are threatened, yes, but most of the time the child's been groomed to believe that this person would never hurt me.
Yeah.
This person would never do anything to me to harm me or to make me feel bad.
Yeah. And if we really think about this issue, think about what a perpetrator is telling a child about their own body. They're too young to understand because they're gaining sexual gratification from this little body. And that has got to be just so, I mean, I've pushed down so I don't go back there again, but it is very confusing because then a lot of survivors feel for example, like self-worth comes from that.
Yeah.
Turning somebody on, making somebody's body, and it's so sick in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because you're too young to understand what that means, but that person is obviously gaining something. That adult is gaining something from that child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
got to be confusing.
Very confusing, and also too with their body responding as well and not understanding why.
Yes.
The conflicting feelings and thoughts about what's happening to them.
Yes. So identity is definitely a piece of that broken glass. The other piece is self-blame. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Putting that back together, that no, it wasn't my fault. I did not do this. I did not cause this, even though this person is telling me that, oh, you're liking it, you're enjoying it, you want it.
Just the idea, too, that of not telling anybody, many people will resort to self-blame because there's a false sense that they had control over it, so it doesn't feel as frightening.
Right.
And so many times, victims and survivors of abuse in general, many times will resort to self-blame because there's this sense of, well, I could have done something about it, then that means that it wasn't traumatic. It means I had a choice, and that takes away the trauma. There's a false sense that it takes away the trauma, at least temporarily.
Right. That makes so much sense. It's so many, because they play mind games. Perpetrators play mind games, and they love to invoke guilt and shame on the on their victim.
Well, especially if the child has any trust in this person, if it's a family member, if it's a coach, if it's somebody that they know. They've entrusted with their safety and talking to them. So, it's a very conflicting role and perception of who this person is.
Yes.
To just take that away to make them erase that belief is very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another piece of the broken glass is trust, right?
Yeah.
You start to distrust everyone.
Well, it's safer. It's safer to trust nobody after somebody that you thought you could trust has violated that trust. It's safer to trust nobody because you can't imagine that ever happening to you again. And so if I trust nobody, then it definitely, in the mind, right, and the perception is it will never happen to me again if I don't trust anybody. And so...
Self-protection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it could cause even distrust with authority, struggle with that, trusting authority, right? Mm-hmm. Playing the part of somebody who cares or somebody who's in charge, and then they're doing this to you. Why would you ever respect authority after that? It's very difficult, especially if it was somebody in a role of authority. For sure.
And particularly if the abuse was never disclosed to family members because it wasn't a safe space for them to disclose, or there was a fear that they wouldn't be believed, and they live through life like that, then anybody of authority, again, gets trapped into that idea that I can't trust anybody. Why do you care about me? My own parents don't care about me. Because even if the child hasn't given the parent an opportunity to not believe them or believe them, then the mindset is going to actually go with the default, which is the safer one, which is they wouldn't believe me anyway. Mm-hmm. And therefore, if whatever you believe about your parents, you project to everyone else in the world, every adult in the world, like particularly authority figures.
Yeah. Yeah. And why would you respect them as well? Like, this is somebody who was in a position of authority,
Yeah.
who took advantage of me, who lied to me, who deceived me, and I'm not feeling happy about this, and I'm not going to have respect for anyone. I'm certainly not going to have respect for authority.
Yeah. So
They're going to
you-
struggle with that.
Yeah, and you kind of go from, again, it's all or nothing at this point because it's just safer that way. So you go to a very primitive kind of sense of reality,
Yeah.
which forces you to do whatever it means to keep you safe, even if you have to hibernate, even if you have to just avoid doing certain things. You not taking any risks. Because you're in survival mode. As I said, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in, and the adrenaline from fight or flight, unfortunately, just doesn't go away until they get treatment, until they get some help to unpack all of this stuff.
Yeah, and give them some coping mechanisms and some tools, right, to respond in a different way. Because, and sometimes it takes time too. Especially now, this is why we have to. The role of the person who abused, that is important in the therapy of getting them back to that trust, that piece of that shattered glass of trust. Because, if it's somebody who plays the role of someone who says that they are they believe in God, let's say, and then that is going to cause a child to distrust anything to do with the word God, right? Because it's gonna be a result of a loss of faith, because they're not going to want anything to do with somebody who says this is what this is about. I'm a
Yeah.
representation of peace and love, and you're doing this to me that's not causing me to feel loved.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then also, how could God let this happen to me?
Yeah, that's a big one. Like, yeah, exactly. Or it could even be a distrust of a gender,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
right?
Definitely.
I'm never going to trust another woman, or I'm never going to trust another man. I'm not going to trust them in a relationship, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't want even with the body, I've spoken to survivors who didn't want to be thin
Yeah, yeah,
because they
absolutely.
didn't want to be
They didn't want to be
found.
adored or found attractive or get that kind of attention, or it's the opposite, right? So it's very much, if you think about the reaction of many survivors is quite absolute, so there are many survivors who become promiscuous and
Me.
over kind of overextend their body, almost as if to erase the damage of what was done to them. If I have sex with multiple people, it will erase the memory of that time. If I avoid sex altogether because I'm ashamed of my body, then it won't happen to me again. I can erase the memory of it happening just by avoiding the situation. So it's very much, you see very much the absolute kind of reactions, the polarized reactions to being sexually abused.
Yeah.
So either, if you think about it from the metaphor of the glass bowl, either the pieces are shattered and you hastily just try and put it, find a way to put it back together to look like something as representative of being promiscuous, or you just sweep it up, put it in the trash, and pretend like, you don't need that bowl.
Right. I mean, when we think about noticing the signs of a child that might have been, because sometimes you don't see that it's broken with sexual abuse.
Yeah.
You don't know that the glass has been shattered because a lot of times it's on the inside.
Correct.
You don't see signs on the outside of a child, right?
Correct.
They look perfect on the outside, especially those with too perfect behavior that don't want anyone to find out.
Yeah.
Right? So on the outside they're going to look like a beautiful piece of glass.
Yeah.
And on the inside they're really hurting and shattered. And that can look like depression, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. So, anytime a child is naturally going to behave differently, I don't think I have ever met a child or even adult who has experienced sexual abuse that has been put back together the way they were and remember themselves the way that they were before this happened. And so when you see a child that is behaving, it could be very subtle, behaving differently. Things just, they're not responding the same way. They may become overly sensitive or overly reactive, right? Many times it's extremes.
Right.
They may not want to go to practice anymore. They may not want to be around their friends. They may not want to eat certain foods anymore. Anything associated with this particular, the perpetrator is probably going to be avoided by the child.
Yeah.
And the victim.
Yeah.
So depression, anxiety, again, anxiety is pretty high many times. Because of the sympathetic nervous system kicking in and the adrenaline rush of fear of, fight or flight. So they will adamantly avoid. And if you question them, the reaction is very strong. No, I'm not going. And because they don't want to say why, then they may be forced to go. And then it's like re-traumatizing them. And even though it may not have happened at that particular event, you've taken the control away from the child to protect themselves.
Right.
And so it's like
re-traumatizing.
re-traumatizing them.
Right.
And that's that's something that it's so important, so crucial for anybody in this child's life to pay attention to.
Yeah. Yeah.
When your child has a strong reaction to something, and even if it's something that, you believe needs a consequence or punishment, it's fine to give them a consequence. I mean, children need to learn, but you also need to find out why.
Right.
If you don't find out the why and dig deep into the emotion beneath it, you'll further traumatize and further have that child solidify a belief that nobody cares about me.
Yes.
Nobody cared to figure out why I
Yes.
feel like this.
Yes. Figure out why they're angry. Figure out why they're fighting everybody. Figure out why they're not
scared.
eating. Figure out why they're cutting. Figure out why they're escaping, especially, escaping, whether that's anything, drinking, drugs, and those that suffer with the disease of addiction, it's so much harder for them to stop, right?
Because you can't go beneath the layer till you get them to stop self-medicating.
Yeah.
And until they stop kind of self-medicating, it's very difficult to tap into those other emotions.
Yeah, because if they stop medicating, then they have to feel.
Yep.
And
They've adapted to not feeling. And when you adapt yourself to not feeling something, or just adapt to any very dysfunctional situation, it's very difficult to break that.
Yeah.
Because that requires the person that's going to do it with them, to trust that they're not going to let them fall apart and not be able to function again, because they've worked so hard to find a way to adapt to function, and they're at the core. They're at the brink of survival mode, and if you break that, there's a sense of, oh my God, I'm just going to fall apart, and I won't. Then everybody's going to know.
Right.
Everybody's going to know what's happened to me.
Right. Right. Wow, that's deep. We got to pay attention to our children. We got to look for those, the signs, and especially when we know that they've been sexually molested and they've had the courage to share some of the things that, we want them to know is, first of all, you did nothing to cause this, right? This was not your fault.
Nope.
The perpetrator was 100% responsible. They have to have that reassurance to continue to let them know, and to say that it doesn't have to identify them, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I said to my girls, like, and I, I've told you several times, and, I've probably said it publicly, like, the only way I had to take the decision out of the hands of my children to say, we're not going to keep the secret, because I was the parent and I had the control over that. And they weren't even old enough to understand, because I didn't want them keeping that shame. And it was my job at that time to just make sure that they don't identify themselves as someone that's a broken piece of glass. I didn't look at it then, but really I wanted them to feel whole by saying, you did not cause this. This was not your fault.
Yeah.
And I went down that road as a parent, and you want friends to know, in case it's happening to them. And,
Yeah.
Right?
Well, self-acknowledgement is the first kind of point in hand. And if you're the parent, that is a pivotal role for you to play in helping children acknowledge that it did happen to them. And then after that comes that we're going to deal with it by talking about it, by embracing the fact that, this is a piece of you, but it's not the entire part of you. This is, when things happen to us, if we let it seep into our core and self as our identity, then it runs our life.
Yeah.
It runs our life. And so the goal would be to eventually have the experience kind of outside of themselves as a memory, an uncomfortable memory, and a memory of something that happened to them, but it didn't define who you are or who you were going to be for the rest of your life.
Right. Right. And I think a major part for parents to play is make sure your child doesn't think they have to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
That's really important, right? And I said to that, it's my job to make sure you're okay. It's
Yeah.
not your job to make sure that I'm going to be okay and the family's going to be okay.
Correct.
This
Correct.
isn't about taking care of me as your parent or the
Yeah.
other adults in the family that are going to be affected. You do not need to protect their feelings, or the perpetrator's feelings. It's about healing your broken heart and putting you back together, right? And and helping you with this experience. It's not about you taking care of all the adults, because that's not your job.
Well, and that sometimes becomes part of the issue of a symptom of many survivors is focusing on other people, right? Focusing on making sure everybody else is okay around them, because surely I must have done something wrong to cause this to happen to me. And so you see this people-pleasing part coming out. If I just do all the right things, then, I can erase the memory of me feeling like I did something wrong.
Yeah. And it's putting a big responsibility on a little person.
Yeah.
Making sure that everybody is okay. That's not the job of a child.
Well, and
is
they
to make
can't.
sure. Then they can't.
They can't.
No, exactly. But they can by not allowing them to feel. Years ago we couldn't feel.
Yeah.
You had to just
Yeah.
get over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You weren't allowed to, you just like get up, get over it, and go on with your life. And no, we are allowed to feel. It's okay to feel.
Well, and feeling something does not mean that you fall apart. Feeling something does not mean that you cannot function.
Right.
Right. And but when you avoid the feeling, you then convince yourself that I won't be able to function. I'm going to fall apart if I feel anything, because you've adapted to not feeling. So you become scared of feeling. Right. And it's so important that we teach children all through their development that it's okay to feel. It doesn't mean you sit back and you do nothing. It just means that you sit back and you reflect on your feelings before you go to, okay, what do we do about this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what the part to emphasize is that allowing your child to cry, allowing your child to feel scared is okay.
And mad.
Yeah, and
It's
mad.
okay to be angry.
Right.
It's what we do with that, right?
Yep. It's how we respond to their emotions that's important.
Yes.
And so a parent's approach to and I think what we said in the last session, right, in the last radio show was parents, you don't want to wait till something like this happens before you be a safe space for your child. It has to be now. Has to be immediately. So if you're, anybody that's listening, I want you to reflect on your relationship with your child.
Right now, yeah.
Right now, to see, do they actually feel safe talking to me? Not just because you're the parent, but could they tell me anything? How do I respond to them when they tell me something scary or they tell me something that they did wrong? If your response comes with a harsh tone, comes with screaming, it comes with, your hand, if it comes with judgment or criticism, you're going to shut your child down and they will not talk to you. Just your parent doesn't give you the right to your child's information if you're not a safe space.
Yeah. And, years ago, just to understand the generations before ours, nobody was having these conversations.
Absolutely not.
If even child on child abuse, you were made to feel shameful, disgusting. Stop that. Instead of explaining boundaries, explaining what's healthy, what's unhealthy, what's safe, it wasn't there because nobody taught them. So we have to. This is all education.
Yep.
And it's not pointing fingers to our, people with who've been around longer. It's not that they're bad. It's just that they weren't provided with that information, and then that gets passed on.
Correct. And it's not, again, and just because somebody has survived through life, it doesn't mean they're okay. It doesn't mean they're okay. And the only way to change kind of, the way the world is or the way the world was is to be able to acknowledge that, okay, well, I didn't have the tools back then, but, maybe I can learn new tools so that we can all be happy and safe and connected and feel connected to each other.
Yeah.
Connection is a basic human need.
Yeah. And let your child know after you find out about a disclosure, whether that was from the child or someone else, that you were grateful that the situation came to light.
And you're proud of them.
Proud of them. That was
proud of them.
Proud that they told. Brave.
It was brave.
It was
Absolutely.
brave. And if they didn't tell you and you found out another way, let them know it's okay they didn't tell you. Don't be offended by that.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Just because you're the mom or dad and they didn't tell you, that's okay. That doesn't make you a bad parent. Just be glad that it all came out. And
that's all part of self-reflection as a parent, right? Is being able to self-reflect, to know that, it's okay to not have all the answers.
Yeah.
You're not perfect. You're never going to be a perfect parent. Mm-mm. And until you acknowledge that you don't always get it right, you're going to respond likely quite harshly to not being in the know.
Yes.
So your own expectations of yourself as a parent is very crucial to understanding yourself and how you parent your child.
Yeah. And I think another dynamic is when you're co-parenting and the other parent is not on board with what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's very difficult for parents who, right? This co-parenting, and whether mom and dad or two people that brought a precious child into this world, if there is discourse or any type of, problems in that marriage or that relationship, that is going to reflect on that child. And if you're not on the same page with stuff, it's that you got to put the child first, don't we?
And the thing is even if there is discord and there's disagreement on how to approach the situation, or even to approach it at all, beyond the family, is who needs you more? It's not your spouse; it's your child.
Yeah. Find someone that you both can respect and that would give you hard truth, and you're not going to be afraid of that hard truth, to say, let's think about what's best for the child. And that's not always easy, especially when two adults are fighting.
Yeah.
But remember, you have a little child in front of you who is expecting, and rightly so, two adults to do what's best for them, not for the adults. Do what's best for that child.
Yep. And reflecting on the broken broken glass, the broken bowl, the glass bowl, is as you're picking up the missing pieces to put this bowl back together. You've got to identify what pieces are missing.
Yeah.
What pieces of you became shattered.
Yeah.
And recognizing that even though it will never look the same, it can still have function.
Yes.
And you can create a new identity, that is even better. The missing pieces, the pieces can be transformed into something better. You might be able to add things, right?
A new purpose.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes pain comes from purpose comes from pain.
Yeah.
It comes from the most difficult things, but giving the child the hope that, first of all, it's my duty and my job as a guardian or a parent to help put you back together and make sure that you're okay. And let me tell you, everyone, if my phone dings at 1 a.m., I'm thinking it's one of my. I am looking at that phone because
It's one of
I'm
your children.
That is my children, and they're even though they're in their 30s, it's my job always to make sure that they are okay, because that was what I took on when I brought them into the world, is to make sure they're okay.
And you always and you want to.
Yes.
You know, you want to be that space for them.
Yes.
You know, it's
Yeah.
and it's not, and that's the thing. You know, it's not just a job. It's not something you have to do. It's something you also want to do.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
because you want to be a part of that child's life and watch them develop and grow into the person that you hope they would be.
Yeah.
So the bowl may not look exactly the same as exactly, but nothing does. What in this world ever stays the same? We're always transforming anyway. You know,
Yes.
but it can still be a beautiful piece of glass. It can still be strong and whole
Yes.
and still
Yes.
have function.
Yes.
You know, you can even decorate it with whatever you want.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the other thing is to recognize that sometimes something can happen that causes that broken piece that we put back there to pop out again,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Triggers.
all
A
the
date.
triggers. Yep.
An anniversary, a smell,
Yeah.
really, right? A
Yep.
memory,
Yeah.
something somebody says, a touch.
Yep. And then you may want to sit with that piece for a little bit and reflect. Don't allow yourself to avoid it. Don't throw it away just because it broke off again.
Right.
You reflect on it, and you transform it again into something that represents something else.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it back together, but it's going to be put back together based on my choice
Yes.
to appear as something else.
Yes. Yes. And reward yourself. As for the adult survivors out there, reward yourself. You could, even for the child, when they're children, reward them. Do something, especially around when it's the court thing, like take them out for an ice cream. Do something that they, keep rewarding them, right? Try to make their life as joyful as you can.
Well, and hopefully if you are the sense of comfort for them, that you do things that, that allow them to feel a sense of comfort. It allows them to feel that, they were brave and they did something well and they went through with it, right? Even though it was hard, right? So you're reminding them that they can do uncomfortable things. They can do hard things.
Yes.
And, it will not only help them, but help other people and other
Yes.
children, other kids.
Yes. Because it does build resilience, right? It
Oh,
builds-
absolutely.
Because, yeah.
Yeah, the pieces of the bowl or the puzzle, as we can call it, are resilience. You have those pieces. When you put it back together, you have them represent something else, not what it was,
Yes.
but something else. So things like values, things like resilience, things like empathy, things like advocacy, that weren't there before because they didn't need to be, but they can serve a purpose for you in the future.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And and I say sometimes to survivors, like, fight for your freedom. If you can endure abuse, you can fight for your freedom. That's like a piece of cake, right?
Yeah.
And look, because you're worth it. You want to you want that glass bowl to be put together, and to know that I did this. For children who have been affected while they're still children, we are the glue. The adults help put that glue. They
Yeah.
need the adults to put the glue. The child's not going to find that glue themselves.
Yeah, the glue has to become part of putting it back together for
Yes.
sure. You can't put the glass back together without
The glue.
solidifying and putting the glue in.
Yeah, and that's the adults in the child's life. It's all of us play a part in that, in making sure that
Yeah.
child's going to be okay, and to support the child through it. Even extended family members,
Yeah.
to be empathetic, to understand. Don't push children to do things they don't want to do in terms of being around the perpetrator again, or something that might trigger them. Right? Like, we
Yeah.
have a responsibility as adults, and then as adult survivors. To work on our healing, to understand recognize that what I'm about to do may cause a memory, or and what do I do what are the tools that I can do to help me get through that?
Yeah, absolutely. When you know what the things that trigger you as an adult survivor, you know, your first inclination might be to run away or to avoid because you have the choice to, right? And that's how you survived beyond the abuse. But it's not always helpful for you because it ends up making you feel trapped,
Right.
right? And restricted.
Right.
And that's not the way you were when you were brought into this life. You were not brought into this life to restrict yourself from situations or from experiences that can help you grow and that you would enjoy doing.
Yes.
But, you know, again, it's releasing the fight or flight, the adrenaline that comes with that is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
But
But children need help with being put back together. They can't do it themselves.
Oh,
they need that
no.
help, right?
Well, no. If they don't get help, the problem is if they don't get any help, they don't get any kind of assistance or intervention. Everything just gets internalized, and then you know, it's very difficult to unpack. The older that they get, holding on to their perception of what happened to them. Their belief system gets solidified, and those beliefs might be very detrimental to their ability to live a safe and free and comfortable life.
Yes, absolutely. You know, we as the adults in a child's life, we're the glue that should really hold our children together, and that's a job forever. That's just not temporary, right? It really is a lifetime commitment.
Yeah, and one of the things I definitely want to make sure that I say is that glass bowl. We keep going back to the glass bowl. Even though it's put back together, it's got glue. It has pieces that don't look the same anymore, but it's back together and it's functional. You want to show it off. You don't want to hide it. You want to show it off. You want to show it to the world because it represents. Now, when you transformed what it represents, it represents resilience, represents empathy, it represents strength.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's not easy. We're not saying any
No.
of this is
Oh,
easy.
absolutely not.
We know that we do realize that there are factors that can get in the way from a child being made whole after sexual trauma. You know, a toxic relationship, an angry, partner. Mediation's critical for that. If that's the the delay in that, and perhaps parents that need help with that, and they should get the help. I think mediation is critical for those who are going through that. You know, at the same time that they've discovered that their child has been sexually harmed.
Yeah.
They need help with that, and there are great resources out there that can help with that, right?
Well, absolutely. And, us as professionals, when we get cases that include any, sexual abuse and any kind of abuse, we've been trained. We have that innate compassion and empathy already built in there.
Yes.
And non-judgment. So coming in with your child, like, oh my gosh, my child's been sexually abused and I just don't know what to do. There's going to be no judgment of sitting you down and ridiculing you for not knowing. That's not going to happen.
No.
We're going to help you through the journey of helping your child through it, and also you, because a lot of emotions come with that for a parent.
Yes.
They go through their own self-blame.
Yes.
They go through their own journey of, and potentially their own, and may reenact their own history of trauma.
Yes, and they need help with that too. And they deserve that help, and that support through that. And I know scarsbermuda.com website has lists of resources in our community. We have a lot that help. And for children, we know it's the Family Center, for free counseling. With the Coalition for Protection are there for support as well, and counseling. And then we have so many great resources. I don't want to miss anybody, but, Solstice is there, and Benedict Associates, and Milestones. Go on our website. There are a lot of great resources, EAP even, and so reach out for some help, because you can't do this alone. You're not meant to. It's too difficult, and you need support to do it. And
nobody expects you to.
Nobody
alone.
expects you to. Absolutely not. We can't undo the breaking, but we can sure be a part of the rebuilding, right? And
Absolutely.
putting that beautiful bowl back together. But we're not saying it's easy. We're really not. We want to do everything we can to make that child whole, because they're going to grow up, they're going to be an adult, and they're going to have scars. But the scars do not have to identify them. Right? We
Correct.
That's one of the pieces that we really want to make sure we work on, is it doesn't have to identify me. As a survivor, I look at myself, and I think people who are around me know, it's your heart, it's who you are. The whole island knows I've been sexually molested, but I no longer look at it, well, what are you going to think of me? Right? It's more, how can I help someone else?
Yeah, yeah. And you're more than that, right? You are more than what has happened to you.
Yeah.
You're a bigger version of yourself in the world than what happened to you. So.
Yeah. And boy, do I have my scars, and everyone knows what they are. But, it's about really working hard, working on the things that trigger me, or the things that, the pieces that were shattered as a result of my childhood trauma.
Because the sooner that there's intervention, the better, right? The sooner there's intervention, the more freedom you allow your child to have a better life for themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Well, everyone, thank you for giving us this time, Bermuda Broadcasting, and all of you for listening. We hope it's been a help to somebody out there, and to know that, I say it every time, like, what happened to you was not your fault, and you can be put back together to be as, beautiful, a beautiful piece. Any last thoughts, Dr. Hancock? Anything you want to add to the audience and thinking about, our precious children?
Well, I think I said, children need us, and no matter how independent they are, they need us, and they rely on us as adults to pave the way for them to understand what safety looks like. We have to be the forefront of creating safety for them. And your connection to children, in terms of how you communicate, is vital to creating a safe space for them. So start now.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have the tools, come and ask, a professional, what can I do? How can I learn how to talk to my child so that I know for sure that if anything happened to them, they would come to me.
Yeah. And if they don't feel comfortable coming to you,
Yeah.
who can they go to?
Well, exactly. And, so many times, children may not feel comfortable initially going to parents, but they may have, even if it's a friend's mother, even if it's an aunt or an uncle or a coach, encourage them to talk to somebody and acknowledge to the child that, you may not feel comfortable talking to me all the time. And as parents, you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
That it's okay for your child, that they may veer off at times.
Yes.
And talk to somebody else first.
Yes.
Without being offended.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Hancock. To all the adult survivors out there who may not have had someone to put them back together, find somebody in your life to remind you that you are worthy, you're valuable, you are not a failure, and your scars are not signs of failure. Despite your cracks and our cracks, we can be restored, and we can be made stronger, and we can be more unbreakable than ever before. Just never give up on your healing. We cannot undo the breaking, but we certainly are a part of the rebuilding. And so we thank you. We thank you for not giving up on your healing. Never do that. Everyone, if you want to make a report of sexual abuse, we want to just remind everybody, call Child and Family Services Kids Hotline, 278-9111, the Bermuda Police Service, 211 or 295-0011. These two agencies together, they investigate child sexual abuse reports. So if you know of a child who's being abused, please shed some light on that. That child is relying on you. You can also make an anonymous call, 800-8477. But also remember our website. We have lots of great resources, scarsbermuda.com. If you've never been SCARS certified before, never been trained, it's 3 hours, it's free. Go to our website and go to the tab that says Get Trained. On behalf of SCARS, Dr. Hancock and I, thank you all who tuned in. Thank you again to the Conduit Foundation for their ongoing generosity and support of our work in child protection.
And just remember, you can be put back together.
Absolutely. Thank you, DJ Shelley. Thank you, Bermuda Broadcasting. Thank you, listening audience. Our next Survivor Hour is scheduled for Wednesday, November 19th at 1:15. Stay safe, and we'll see you next month. We'll talk to you next month.
It's a